What's up, guys? Welcome to a road nearby Vancouver, Canada. It's a beautiful Saturday morning out here, and I am sitting in one of my favorite cars of all time, the NA1 Acura or Honda NSX. I'm going to talk you through all the mods that the owner Ronald has done to this beautiful NSX, and then we'll take it for a drive and see how this feels and how this compares to my own NSX. There's another silver NSX that we'll be driving later today as well. And my goal today is to look at all the different parts that you can throw on an NSX and figure out which ones enhance the already amazing driving dynamics of the original NA1 NSX. So mod list on this car in the video description, but we have the Taitec GT-011 exhaust manifold, Taitec GT-008, JGTC parallel exhaust, Comptech Intake Box, SOS Air Intake Scoop. The one I'm really curious about is the Aragosta Type-E coilovers. They're a 12K spring up front, 7K in the rear with a 4K helper spring. And we're on these beautiful SSR Type-C wheels. They're only 16" by 8 in the front, 17 by 10 in the back. We are on Bridgestone RE71 RS tires. Less than 69,000 miles on the odometer. It looks to be originally a US car. I can tell by the gearing and the fact that everything's in miles per hour. We're powered by the C30A motor. It's a 3-liter VTEC variable valve timing equipped V6 engine, naturally aspirated, 270 horsepower, 210 foot-pounds of torque, 5-speed manual, double wishbone suspension all around. The car weighs around 3,000 pounds, probably lighter with these mods. Market value, probably in the $80,000 to $90,000 range for a bone stock mint example with less than 70,000 miles. So with that, let's see how this car drives with the mods that Ron has put on it. AC blows nice and cold, as you'd expect for a Honda. All right, let's listen to that VTEC sing. First gear in this car, quite long. Goes up to around 45 miles per hour. The second gear, even longer. Goes up to around 80 miles per hour. But you don't have to drive an NSX all out to enjoy it. It's one of those cars that evokes emotion from the driver, even at low speed. We're just following what appears to be maybe a Ferrari 458 Spider, or is that a 430 Spider? I'm not quite sure from this distance. This is a car that can be driven at all speeds and put a smile on your face because it's so raw, it's so visceral, and it's a timeless JDM classic. Just the way it makes you feel cruising around this unassisted steering rack. Slow ratio, it requires you to really muscle it around through the hairpins, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's so full of feedback. This 5-speed manual transmission, even with this annoyingly long USDM gearing, it's a joy to use. It's so slick, it's so precise. For a cable actuated shifter, it is one of the best of all time, if not the best. Now this car is sitting very, very low, potentially the lowest NSX I've ever driven, because we're on 16-inch front wheels, and the car basically has a 0-finger gap up front from the fender to the tire. The car is slammed, absolutely slammed, and I can tell that even just sitting in it. Compared to my car, which already scrapes going over everything, this car is next level low. But you know what? These Aragosta coilovers ride surprisingly well. Even with a much stiffer spring rate than what I have, which is Öhlins DFE, this coilover system has good compliance. First time ever driving on Aragostas, and for street driving, I gotta say, these do the job quite nicely. What else makes the NSX driving experience so special? Even in stock form, let's say you had completely stock suspension, when you sit in the car, you really do feel like you're on the ground. It makes you feel so connected. Everything on the road, your peripheral vision, just comes at you that much faster, and it makes you feel like you're going a lot quicker than you are. And there's definitely a joy in that, because no modern car, say made in the last 10 years, maybe even 20 years, can give you that experience, with very, very few exceptions. And this Taitec exhaust, JGTC parallel, that sounds so good. It's got that nice deep bassy rumble. It's not really a super high-pitched exhaust, so it might not suit everyone's needs, but I think it gives this engine a really interesting character. And it's not an exhaust that drones, unlike my Pride V2 RFL with stock cats, which drones really badly between 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. I forgot to mention these Recaro bucket seats make me sit even lower than the stock NSX seat, which is actually mounted quite high relative to the cockpit itself. Wow, look at this view. Vancouver is such a beautiful place. What do I think could be improved about this particular NSX? Well, I think for the use case of this car, which according to Ronald is mostly, you know, streeting the car. He doesn't track this, probably takes it to car meets here and there, cruises like we're doing right now. I mean, for that use case, I think it's great. It rides well enough, given how damn low it sits. It looks amazing on the exterior. The interior also very tastefully done. Love the aftermarket steering wheel and the shifter. The fact that this shift knob is quite high shortens the distance between the steering wheel and the shifter, which makes it just a little bit easier to drive on the street. And it still has that amazing NSX handling and that amazing NSX sound. And the steering, oh, a little bit of a vibration in the steering wheel there, a little bit of kickback. This is a car that truly can be enjoyed on a drive like this. You don't have to be pushing it 10/10ths, listening to that engine, rowing through the gears. It's a beautiful thing. Now back to what I was saying. What could be improved about this NSX? Well, the brakes. And that's the tricky part, because as much as I love how these wheels look with 16-inch up front, 17 in the back, they're small by modern standards, yes, but somehow they work so well with the NSX. Something about 16, 17 with a really low stance, it just gives it that aggressive and yet simple and clean look that I love. As I was saying, if you want a big brake kit, chances are you're going to have to ditch the 16-inch wheels. You'll need at least a 17 up front. And the reason that's challenging is because unless you go with something like the spoon brakes, which I believe will actually fit under a 16-inch wheel, but if you want really good brakes like StopTech, AP Racing, 17-inch wheel minimum at the front. As one of my GoPro overheats here. Not that the stock brakes don't work on the street, they work fine, but a little bit more of a firm pedal with more stopping power would be nice. The stock brakes are just too small, as another GoPro dies, but even with upgraded pads and fluid, these brakes just don't feel that good, not even on the street. So that is one area that I would recommend that he upgrade at some point. Besides that, this NSX is just about perfect as a street car. With that, as I'm down to my last remaining GoPro, a big shout out to Ron for letting me review this beautiful NSX. Let me know what you think about this car and how it could be improved even further. Modding an NSX is such a difficult thing, because this car is such a blank canvas and it responds in a very sensitive way to mods. You put the wrong mods on it, you could ruin the feeling of this car. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this NSX build. If you have an NSX build you'd like me to review, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.